Okay, giddy up. We'll get started. Good evening, gentlemen. We've got pretty much the same crew as we had last episode. By the way, I want to thank everybody out there. We just started dropping these over the weekend, and we had a great, I think, a great response. A couple hundred people downloaded it, and from what I understand, that's a percentage of probably the number of people who listen to it. So, yeah, that's pretty good to start out with, and we're happy about it, and we thank all of you who tuned in. You kind of surprised us. So it was good. It was good to hear that, and we hope to continue to get better and make it even more interesting each time. But we will continue to work on that. We're going to have some. I think we're going to have some good guests in the future. What have you guys been up to this week? Anything good?
Just Super Bowl.
There, Super Bowl. Yeah. For the listeners out there, this is being recorded the day after the Super Bowl.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, any thoughts? I'm sure there's a few thoughts. I was a 49er. I was rooting for the 49ers. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but
I think everybody that doesn't live in Missouri was rooting for the 49ers.
Yeah. Oh. Did all of you see the like the assault on the sideline with
Chelsea?
With Reed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Man. I think I would have been saying, okay, I tell you what, why don't you sit out the next series and think about this? You know, at least the next series. If there's anything that looked like roid rage, that was it.
I've never seen Travis Swift so upset.
Yeah. He was mad. I mean, out of control mad. When you hit the coach like that, and I don't mean like fist hit it. But.
Yeah, I think he was probably upset that his girlfriend sold one of her jets.
Could be.
And he kind of wanted to, keep that around.
Well, I heard the reason she sold it was because the headroom wasn't high enough for him to fit into it.
We're talking about the height of the airplane, right?
Yeah. Let's be careful.
4 mile high. Where are we going with this? Rewind.
That was totally innocent. Man. Totally innocent.
I think it's actually the back of her head that's hitting.
She's pretty tall, actually. I'm changing the subject.
I'll end with that.
But I heard a lot of criticism on how they handled the overtime. The 49ers, that they basically should have taken the ball for the.
I was surprised.
Deferred.
It's closer to college. It's more similar to college.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty much, when you score, you're giving Mahomes 4 downs.
Yeah, especially if you don't score a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah, and that surprised me because I think Shanahan. I've always thought he was a pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just a brain fart. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah,
he must need a game manager.
He's got to know.
Well, as a fan,
game manager, he needs a game manager. Like
yeah, that's right.
I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to put that pressure on Purdy to have to come from behind and he must score to win the game, which they gave Mahomes that he's been in that situation before, so he's poised to do that. But maybe Purdy's not. He didn't want to put him in that situation, so they take the ball first and scored, and you rely on your defense to make a stop, do something big, and it didn't work out.
Well, I thought one of the arguments was our defense is tired, and let's give them a break.
That was an excuse.
I'd be like, suck that up one more time.
The announcers were making an excuse for it. Yeah. They were giving them a pass. But it was a huge mistake.
But hey, hats off. They won. What's that? 4 rings for Mahomes?
Two
in a row.
Three.
Yeah.
Three
of 6 years.
2 in a row.
Yes, 3, but 2 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
3 and 2 in a row. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But anyway, like I said, hats off to them. I don't know if you guys had a dog in the fight. I did not, but it was fun to watch, I guess. Commercials disappointed me. There was only like a couple of good ones, in my opinion. Is that it? That's all you got to say about the Super Bowl?
Again, I had no dog in the fight.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch.
I was, once the Ravens were out, I was like,
We got a birthday coming up.
Who's that?
Jimbo.
Oh.
Jimbo's got a birthday.
Yeah.
26? 36?
Again and again and again.
Yeah. That'll be exciting. Going away.
Yep.
You don't have to say where.
Going to Nashville.
Okay. Good for you, man.
I'm going to tell you.
It's a fun town.
It is.
I haven't been there yet, but I hear it's a fun town. I got to go. I want to go.
It's a good time.
Yeah. But we...
check your liver.
Yeah. How long are you going to be down?
5 days.
Wow.
Okay. That's a good trip. Is it just you two? You and your wife?
No, me and Scott and Tina.
Oh, okay.
They're going.
Very good. Well, have fun. We'll miss you at the next recording.
Yeah, you'll have to have some special guests.
Yeah, we'll have something.
Although it would be fun for him to call in at
You know what? I was going to
7
suggest
p.m.
that.
from Nashville.
Take
that
a
would be
mic
actually
with you.
Pretty,
Ah.
that would be.
Could do
Josh
that.
said it's no big deal.
Entertaining.
Engineer Josh.
I don't know
he
how
said that's
he-
no problem.
You can do that? Wow. Wow.
Well, think about it.
Wow.
Depends on what you're doing at 7.
Depends on what my BAC is at that time.
You know what? That might be more fun. What
You might
what day
not.
do you leave?
You might need a mute button.
That's what the engineer's for.
Right.
What day do you come back?
Come back Tuesday.
Okay.
Leaving Thursday, come back Tuesday.
That'll be the last night you're there. You might not be free.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
I mean,
What would he need?
By
What do you
that,
need, Josh?
By that time,
Anybody else do anything interesting this week? Todd?
No. Just working.
Worked on my...
Doing a podcast
Worked on my
with my buddies.
stepdaughter's car.
Yeah, I did today, actually.
Yeah. Was there anything wrong with it? Not that anybody
Yeah, a
here
couple
cares.
little things.
Oh, okay. All right. Because the engine light just went on one of our other cars.
Did it really?
Yeah.
It's like
I was
magic.
great. That's just great. Hopefully it's nothing sensor or something. How about you, Captain?
I can't think of anything, so it must have not been.
You did nothing
too exciting.
all week.
I didn't say nothing.
All right.
he came to take his stand down, but didn't bring his rope. Was that last?
Oh yeah, that was old age. I just
Have you guys done that for a while
Done
what?
with the stands?
Like put them up, take them down, that kind of thing.
Do you do it? Do you always just take them up?
I leave mine up. He takes his down.
Uh,
I've got like nylon straps on mine today.
we're talking hunting stands for those who don't hunt. But since we do have the captain here and wanted to get basically everybody's opinion, but certainly we have a couple of people who maybe have a little bit more insight to this than some of us. But there's a lot going on. I mean, we're talking about it every day. A lot going on worldwide on the global fronts, and not just between foreign countries, but between us and the foreign countries, or at least we're associated with some of the other countries going on. And it brings up, as I started thinking about it, I started thinking about what kind of things are we learning, if anything, from what's going on around the world. Are we learning anything? And when you start looking at the strategies for our national defense, and we start thinking about what would we do depending on how far it goes, and I have questions. I want you guys to address it, especially the captain. One of the things that we kind of, at least I've been hearing over the many years, is that when you have these, let's say, the more modern countries, or maybe that's not even the word. No, the other ones, the one,
Third world?
Well, yeah, first world. I'm sorry, you're right.
First world. Yeah. Modern tech, everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's like these modern states, countries, whatever you call them, that there's this thought out there that really they're not going to, or they don't make war on each other. And there's a couple of reasons that I hear that. One is the mutual destruction kind of
Well, if they're
theory
nuclear
behind
powered,
it.
if they're nuclear powered countries, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yes, and that's kind of what I'm talking about is the more modern ones that would have that. But that brings up another problem. You have Iran who's trying to get there, and may be there.
They're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're there.
So, but why are they not supposed to, or why do we think that they're not going to go to war with each other? A couple of things I jotted down was, one, the mutual destruction aspect of it, but that we say that they're too economically interdependent on each other. You know, there's all this trade going on, and you don't want to mess that up. And then there's the cost of being the bad guy. You're the international pariah who, is making enemies, and you don't want to be that guy. So those were the three big arguments that I came up with, had heard before. So, but what we're seeing is that's just totally being refuted now. I mean, you got obviously Ukraine, Russia attacking Ukraine. You have Iran again trying to become this nuclear power. You have, and really this isn't two modern states, but Israel is certainly a modern state, and what's going on with them with Hamas
And a nuclear
Gaza.
power.
Exactly. Trying to think of the other. Oh, China. I mean, we got another situation that could happen, just like I shouldn't say just like, but similar, to Russia and Ukraine, where you have China and Taiwan,
North Korea.
and trying to bring them under control of Beijing. North Korea threatening South Korea and pretty much everybody else. So anyway, just throwing that out there is saying, it's kind of a background to say, hey, the old school of thought, or the thought that we had 30 years roughly after the Cold War ended, to where we were kind of enjoying this peace. And while the school of thought was kind of coming up, at least for me, I'm starting to realize that's not the case. And then how's that going to affect the United States? How's it going to affect us? And that's the question I'm throwing out there. And Captain, I just wanted to kind of throw it out to you. How do you see it right now? What are some of the thoughts you have over that situation? Because I know it's a...
So it's a foreign policy question. We've had 30 years of foreign policy where we've had ultra domination compared to any other country. And now we're slowly seeing that slipping away. And how is our foreign policy needing and going to change from the last 30 years, where we just had so much power and domination of everybody, where everybody is starting to catch up, and we're kind of spinning our wheels here. How are things going to change?
Have we been short-sighted?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a good point that you brought up catching up, and that's exactly what's happening. Everyone's catching up. The technology's, easier to obtain, and so you don't have that advantage anymore. You think about the wars of the last 20, 30 years that we've been involved with. We had air superiority. You're not going to have that anymore. And that's just an example, right? Technology catching up and taking away certain elements of power. That's definitely what's happening.
Are we staying incrementally ahead of these other powers, or are they totally really catching up?
I think, again, I've interest in this area. I think in certain areas we're falling behind, in certain areas we're still ahead, and it's a cat and mouse kind of thing, back and forth. It's happening behind the scenes, and I just have an interest in all these areas of national security and how it affects us as Americans and our families and our day to day. Most people don't think about these things. You hear about them on the news when Congress is arguing about sending more money to Ukraine. Is that in our best interest? Those kind of things, right? And there's multiple ways to look at those things. And you mentioned all the hotspots, and I can't remember in my lifetime these many hotspots, kind of major hotspots, all happening at once, or perhaps happening. You think China, Taiwan.
Potential. Lots of potential.
Yeah, there's a spark there.
Do you think they're just watching to see what happens?
I think there's a lot of elements to that. Yeah. I think that. I do think countries are taking advantage of our situation right now in the U.S. and whether they perceive us to be weak or not. Maybe it might be true, it might not. So I think you see some of that. But yeah, I think China's considering how to bring Taiwan back under the fold, and when they think they're ready, they've said it on multiple occasions, they're going to do it when they're ready. And it's an interesting, that one in particular is really interesting.
The China one?
Yeah, the China one. Yeah. It could
happen.
How
so? What do you mean?
It's in their backyard. If you look at, the equipment they have now and they're building, they can build things a lot faster than we can. They don't have all the, the legal stipulations that
right. No red tape.
No red tape that binds our hands and stuff like that. So they can build fast.
No EPA.
Yeah, exactly. And so you look at their numbers of stuff, military equipment, that sort of thing. It's in their backyard. They can outnumber us in a lot of ways. And so I think in certain elements, they're, numbers, quantity is a quality in and of itself in certain cases. So it'll be interesting.
You got 1 billion people, we can throw bodies at it too.
That as well, right? But no, I can't remember a time in my life when we've had so many, hot things happening that could have significant ramifications on us here.
Even one, if just one.
Yeah, they got out of
obviously
hand.
One is. Ukraine.
Right.
We're spending so much money.
Well, you think of Ukraine, so that's a great example, right? So there's a debate right now in Congress about how much money we're throwing at Ukraine. But if you look at it, our 24 national defense budget was $841 billion. $841 billion.
That's all?
Annual.
Yeah, annual. But if you look at how much money and resources, equipment that we've given Ukraine since this thing started, it's about, it depends who you believe, around 75 billion is the number I keep coming up with. That's less than 10% of our annual defense budget. And what's happening over there is Ukrainians are taking it at the Russians from all we can tell from, open sources. And so, they've lost thousands of tanks and equipment and pieces of equipment, that sort of thing. So you kind of question yourself, for 10% of our defense budget, we could be, chopping off a peer adversary at the knees for maybe forever, maybe the next 30 years. How long is it going to take for them to recover conventionally? So that's one side of the argument.
Did you watch the Putin interview?
No, I didn't, but I wanted to ask if you guys did.
It was pretty amazing.
I did. I watched all 2
hours
and 10 minutes of it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
What did you get out of it?
My main takeaway was it goes back to how Joe Biden is literally brain dead compared to that man. Not that I like Putin or I think he's a piece of crap and he's a war criminal, but I'm not looking at it at that angle. I look at it as he sat there for over 2 hours and gave a perfect history lesson from back, and
he schooled Tucker.
Oh my goodness! Well, I mean, and Tucker is a history. His major was history.
Yeah.
He was a history
He
major,
used
so
that.
he's a big history buff,
Yeah.
right? So he sat there and gave an articulate, conversation, 2-hour conversation on history, and he didn't skip or miss a beat or mess up a word. I mean, there was some translation going on there too, but I mean, obviously he has his faculties, and he's younger as well, younger than Biden. I think he's only 72. But remember when he was dying of cancer, and he's on his last leg, and he hasn't been seen in 3 months, and he's
forgot about that.
remember all that? Well,
Yeah.
that was all bullcrap, wasn't it? Obviously, that was
Yeah,
bullcrap.
it seems
He
like
looks
it.
absolutely
Yeah,
in
looks
perfect
fine.
health, perfectly articulate. You might not agree with what he says, but he didn't miss a beat. I mean, and then you look at that guy and you compare him to what we have in the White House, and you go, "Oh my God, we are in so much trouble." It's crazy if you just look at the comparison, regardless of the content of what he said. It's a really stark comparison. It's bad.
What was your takeaway?
Well, it was purely from his perspective. The history of World War II
Right.
is very different
Yes.
from the Japanese perspective
Of course.
versus the American
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
And I know they could tell a story that would probably make them feel like they were in the right.
Sure.
Well, they were our allies in World War II, but his history lesson went back to, 600 years before that.
1650s?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So it went way,
Yeah,
way,
the
way
Ukraine War started in 1913. The takeover of Ukraine.
back. Right.
I thought you're right. It could be total propaganda, obviously. Of course, we might be guilty of the same thing sometimes.
Oh, we so are.
We
Of course
absolutely are.
But-
the people who win the wars write the history
Yeah,
books,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's just the way it
Yeah,
is.
you're right.
The people
Exactly.
who win the wars write the history books. And that's why they try to change our history when they're teaching kids now. They're saying, "Oh, America's bad and the slaves, and they don't teach this part of the history." Well, they teach this part because that's what we want to hear. Or that's that's their side of it. Whatever that project is, the 18 something project. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers, but the winner, the people who win the wars write the history books.
Yeah.
It's from their perspective.
And I started thinking, if some of what he's saying is true, then I understand now why they think they're justified.
Sure, of course.
And of course, maybe it's not true, but maybe they just believe it's true. I don't know. But either way, whether you believe it
Yeah.
because it's true or you just believe it,
I mean,
they feel
Russia
justified.
is run as a propaganda. It's a propaganda
Yeah,
state. That's,
sure it is.
that's what they do. They limit what their people can hear, what they can see, and they tell them.
Sounds like mainstream now.
Yeah.
Sounds very similar.
Sounds very similar to what's
mainstream
going
media.
on here. We're just now figuring it out.
Wow. Did you see it, Scott?
I did not.
Yeah, that was crazy. And the other thing I walked away with was similar to what you just said. This guy, I may not agree with this guy.
Right.
I may hate this guy, but I respect the guy because he is in command, and you could just feel it.
And that's
he
all-
controlled that interview.
And that's all Trump says about him too. He says he doesn't necessarily like the
Right.
guy. He says he respects him. He's a smart guy, and as soon as you say he's smart, they're like, "Oh, you
You're
love
the bad-
Putin.
how do
You
you
love
love
the
Putin?"
communists." That's not what he's saying. He's saying he's smart, and if he's going to be mixing it up with Joe Biden in the when they're starting to negotiate, he's going to take full advantage of him because Joe doesn't have his faculties, and this other guy, it was the head of the KGB. He's intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
He might be, everything he said might be incorrect. Don't know.
Wasn't it interesting
But
when he
he's
said about
intelligent and he
CIA?
knows what he's doing.
It's like he
Oh,
knew
yeah, absolutely.
he knew Tucker had applied for the CIA.
Absolutely. He knows everything.
I was like, wow, man, he's pulling Tucker's information out.
Well,
he's done his homework.
He was giving him those tidbits to tell, hey, I know
I
everything
know
about
everything
you
about you.
too. I know
Exactly.
everything exactly right because he was head of the KGB.
I think that was Tucker's hardest interview. Not that I know every interview he's done, but I just got the feeling he was sitting there going, holy cow.
Well, he didn't have the home field advantage.
Exactly.
He's sitting in the middle of the Kremlin,
Yeah.
and where they can just snatch you up and you'll never be heard
And he
from
tried
again.
to stop him, like 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Well, how is this pertinent? How is this? He goes, well, stand by. You know,
That's right.
let
me
finish the
Let
story.
me just finish this thought.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was amazing. It was just amazing. You got to pull it up and watch it sometime. But anyway, that's Ukraine. That's Russia. There's a lot more to it.
I mean, Israel, obviously with Hamas and basically Iran, for all intents and purposes, and the Houthis and all that kind of stuff, and what they're doing, they're pushing the limits and all.
Are we not prepared militarily to handle all this?
I have no idea.
Because, I mean, it's a rhetorical question, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I don't
just,
know.
it seems like recruitment's down.
That's definitely true.
We lost a lot of equipment. A lot of our equipment was built in the 80s, 90s. We're not spending a lot of money on new equipment. We're giving it away.
Well,
Or leaving it
and the
in another country.
and some of the equipment that we
Touche.
used to have, we're not using that type of equipment anymore because we're moving in different directions, like the ground wars and stuff like that with the big tanks and stuff. That's all going away because
Look at Ukraine. What's happening there? I mean, those tanks are getting obliterated by little UAVs.
tanks, yep, all the big $1 million tanks are getting blown up by $100,000 UAV. Yep,
Yeah, the tank on tank battle might be gone.
it's going away.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, we're spending money. I mean, look at the defense budget. We're spending money. It's just more exquisite things, more robotics. So your soldiers and your warfighters aren't in the harm's way and those kind of things. That kind of seems how things are going. Learning a lot of lessons from Ukraine, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm seeing, too, is that going back to what I was saying earlier, how these powers, you thought maybe they won't go to war because of all these reasons. And basically, we're seeing that they're willing to go ahead and do it. Whether it's for political reasons, or like territorial, religious, you name it. That's important enough to them.
It's
to
been
say,
happening
"We're
since
gonna
the
go."
beginning of the time.
Exactly. So being modern doesn't stop it.
No, absolutely.
And
not.
it's happening right. I mean, we're also worried about Mexico, so we got our own border.
Yeah, and that's one that wasn't brought up, and that's one I wanted to bring up. That's one maybe more relevant to you and I sitting here today than any of these other ones around the world. I mean, you can make an argument that if the China-Taiwan thing goes up, then the whole supply chain breaks down, and it's going to be painful for everyone around the world, including ourselves. But the Mexico one, I mean, if you consider that an invasion, what the cartels are doing, and the article I shared the other day with you guys, was it yesterday? Or was it this morning? I lost track. About them, moving into Montana. Of all places.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
Butte.
I brought that up because
Butte.
so it's incredible to me, and the fentanyl and all that kind of, and
Where are they going in Montana?
The article said they were in Butte, is where the
right,
stop
but
was in Butte, but
they're
it's
spreading
everywhere.
out from there. Yeah. And apparently, I don't know, I didn't get into. They said in the article something about they make 20 times more money in Montana than they would
What?
in Los Angeles on some of that stuff, and I didn't get into
On the drugs?
I didn't read why, but That's what
It's more,
saying.
yeah, it's more
Well,
profitable, and I'm not
supply
sure.
and demand. That's
Yeah,
why.
that's
It's
what
in
it
the more
is.
rural
Yeah.
area is
Maybe.
where they'd made the most money.
And it's also safer.
No competition.
And it's fentanyl
it's-
or
yeah.
fentanyl and other
It's
things.
meth. It's
Meth.
meth. Yeah, for
Yeah, it's
sure.
meth.
Okay. Wow.
And you got the Indian reservations and that sort of thing. And
Are they hiding in the native lands?
That too. They were doing a lot of that.
Less of,
Inroads there.
They don't have any authority there, so they can go on an
yeah.
Indian reservation and take advantage of the lack of.
Set up base operations
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
So the U.S. enforcement doesn't have law enforcement doesn't have any authority on those jurisdictional problems. Yep.
No, I just thought it was fascinating. I saw that article and wanted to
They're
share
they're
it.
smart. They're not stupid. They're not stupid people either, right?
They
Imagine
called
that.
it the last great place.
Yeah, the
That's
last
what
great
the
place.
article.
Yeah, crazy.
You thought the Crow Warriors were tough. Wait till you see them on meth.
Well, okay. So, what can we do? First of all, not us individuals, but as a nation, what can we do to kind of disincentivize? Or can we? Can we do anything? In other words, what's our strategy?
It depends on. I think it depends on how you label what this is. If the United States labels the cartel as a terrorist organization, then there's certain things by law that we can do. But if you don't, if you just sit there and call them, drug traffickers, then the military can't get involved. So it all depends on how our government wants to label them, and once you place labels on people, there's certain things you can do, and if you don't, you can't do anything.
Well, we've seen to be, I guess, from a lack of a better term, kind of timid in our approach to these other international conflicts. I might be wrong on that. That's just something that I kind of feel like there's no real strength coming from us.
Well, here's an example of a lack of strength. We just talked about labels and identifying or giving someone a terrorist status. The Houthis had terrorist status, and Biden took them off the terrorist list. He removed them from terrorist status. So does that project strength, or does that project weakness? So if he's going to take them off the terrorist list, and they're actively bombing our 67 attempts at killing our people and bombing our ships and with missiles, what do you think he's going to do to the cartels? Nothing.
Right.
So if he's willing to remove the Houthis from the terrorist list, you think he's going to put them on the terrorist list, the cartel? No.
Yeah, we got to reimagine, the war on drugs, that
Yeah.
whole we have to reimagine though, but I mean, it's not a fight necessarily that we can win, sort of door to door in our local communities, like
The drug war, you mean?
the drug war, right?
Yeah.
That we attempted. I mean, you got to go after the top, right? Just kind of like we did in Colombia, right? And helping them, and but we have to. I think you have to go after the cartels. You have to take them down from the top.
That involves invading Mexico. You'd have to get them there.
I agree.
And you'd have to get the Mexican government to be on board with it and let us come in. We'll work with you. We'll let them come along.
Well,
Probably
it's,
not.
It's like you said. But
yeah.
if you consider them terrorist organizations, and Mexico is now
Well, then they have to
hosting
comply,
terrorist,
or they
well,
have to comply, or we shut everything down
Right.
for
I
them.
mean,
Yeah,
I think that's a kind of
absolutely.
thought we have to put into
But who has
our
that
policies.
stomach? Who has the stomach for that? Does anybody in Congress have any of that stomach at all? Not right now.
I think the source of America's power throughout history has been fear, respect, but fear and money, right?
Absolutely.
And that's really the source of our power. That's the only reason
So
we
the
would ever have
power-
been able to throw our weight around.
Absolutely. And if we can't get somebody to do something, we throw money at it, and then they do it.
Yeah, so you'd really probably the way that America would really handle that would probably be throw enough money at the Mexican government, military, more than they could get from the cartels, to the point where they would have to do it.
And that's exactly what the Chinese have done over the last 20 years too. they made a lot of money, and they've been throwing their money around for influence around the world, for sure.
And building bases all over the country now, just like we have done over the last 50 years.
Yep.
They're doing it now.
Yep.
They all have enough stomach to give away our money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We know that for
That's
sure.
easy. It doesn't take much stomach for them to do that.
So you're talking deterrence, basically, with the fear. I mean, like you said, fear, respect, whatever you want to call it, or combination. And that's deterrence. And that needs a strong military.
But yeah, that's the military.
Well, somebody is willing to use it.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, you can have a strong military, but if no one believes you're going to use it,
Sitting back and hearing all you guys, and unfortunately, this is just way over my head. It really is. It's very.
It's not like we know what we're talking about.
Well, what I'm getting at is it's just very frustrating that I hear all this and there's still just the bottom line all the time is what can we do? And I agree that I don't believe we have the power that I think that we used to be, or the intimidation that we used to have. But even if we did, we don't have anybody in place that wants to use it. Not in a bad way, but just I don't know. Just I don't want to use pride, but I mean, we're kind of like we're laughable. I mean, it's just laughable sometimes.
well, the people don't have the stomach for that, the wars and stuff like that anymore.
I
they just don't have that stomach.
And why do you think? Is it something that we lost through years, or do you think it's just that? And I'm asking. I don't know the answer, but I know it comes down to our leadership.
I think
our
the last
commander
time
in chief. I'm sorry.
I think the last time we had it as a country was September 12th.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it takes things like that to wake us up. Unfortunately,
That's what I'm worried about. What's the next one?
Well, it's inevitable at this point.
It's coming.
With the open border.
It's coming. It's not like you said. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when.
but like Scott said, what I think about when it comes to like national security is how does it affect me? What should I expect from my leadership, my politician, that sort of thing, But most people don't even think about it. It's another world away. It won't affect us. We're safe and secure here in the
It's
US.
not on our shores. It's over there.
Not on our shores,
Right.
and so, but
So we got to fight them there, so we don't fight them here. That argument.
yeah, right. Well, and that's certainly a philosophy, and strength through deterrence and all that kind of good stuff. But
Well, I can definitely say that I'm extremely guilty of that.
Of what?
Guilty of what?
Call it like what you were saying. It's not going. It's too far away. You know.
My fishbowl. My fishbowl effect.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the other thing that's very frustrating that that when the conversation comes up, I just what can we do? I know that sounds so vague and so ignorant. I know it does, but I get so frustrated when it's just I don't know what to do. What would coming from someone that doesn't really follow it that much, and not that it's a concern to me. You know what? It must not be that. I think it's a concern, but I don't consume it. I don't get consumed in my daily life. I mean, I just don't. Good, bad, ugly, whatever you want to call it. But
Well, we're protected right now at the distance. If you're an Israeli, it's part of your world. You can't help but
It's on your
be a
border,
part of it.
yeah.
Every day. It's all you think about. probably.
360 degrees.
Yeah.
Around your border.
But we're so far away. You're right.
Yeah, we have oceans that protect
What
us.
did you say, the fishbowl?
We used to, anyway.
Our fishbowl. So,
Yeah, we have the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean.
Your question, I think, is what all of us as individuals have. What can we do? And I think it really comes down to what can the country do? And then we kind of come off of that. Does that make sense? In other words, does the country do the military buildup? Does the country change its diplomatic strategies?
I know. Don't you think it has to? So but why don't we have that in place now?
Well, there's
I
a
think because we're
wave.
complacent.
Well, there's a war or a battle going on right now in this country over this particular issue right now, where you have most of the older folks, our age and older, we're like, yeah, we need to go kick their ass. That's just it's the way it is. We got to, and we have the pride in the country, and kind of like that World War II or that Vietnam. We respect. We like the military. We want to go and take care of business. When somebody messes with us, we're gonna hit them back, 5 times harder, right? That's how most of us in our age group think. And you got to be careful not to get caught up in, wanting to be this big neocon. Yeah, let's bomb Iran, that type of stuff. So, because that causes
Lindsey Graham.
lots of bad stuff. Yeah, you don't want to be the Lindsey Grahams either, right? So you don't want to be. You definitely don't want that neocon label, or even a liberal who's also a warmonger, because there's those guys too. But
There's money in war.
Yeah, exactly. So then you have the younger people, 30 and under, that they're exactly the opposite. They're absolutely 100% anti-war, because let's face it, they're the ones that are going fighting it. They're not going to draft me to fight anything. If they do, they're in real trouble. So, they're the ones they're trying to get these kids to fight their wars, and you wonder why they're not getting their recruiting goals, is because look at the people they're trying to bring on to fight for them. They don't believe in any of that. Yeah, they don't believe in any of that stuff. So there's two, and that's a battle going on right now in this country over the people that are the industrial, the military industrial complex, and feeding that machine, and then the young people that are all about, hey, let's take that money and put it into homeless and building homes and quality of life, and they're all about their social issues and their liberal causes, and they want to use that money for other purposes, and they're not about the war. So there's a big battle over control over which direction we go with this funding Ukraine, and then even funding Israel. And you can see how Biden is even caught between a rock and a hard place, where he's, hey, yeah, we're pro-Israel because they're our allies and we're going to give them money, but his radical left base is, marching in the streets in support of Hamas, and literally rioting in front of the Capitol, nobody getting locked up, and it's just so his party is fractured. This Israeli war has really fractured his party. The young people aren't voting for him because they're against the Israel war, and they're pro Hamas. And then his older blue dog Democrats, or older people, they're in favor of Israel. So he's got to thread that needle and try to walk that fence so he can keep everybody on board. But if he goes one way or the other, he's going to lose them, and so he's caught in a rock and a hard place at the moment.
Do you believe that we have like a plan? I mean, do you believe?
No.
Okay,
that's why I'm asking.
Well,
or I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as much as I'm guilty to say, a lot of times I put my head in the sand, and I know people get frustrated with that, and I understand that. I don't know. I just can't believe that do we really know? I mean, I know that we don't know everything, but do we really? I mean, I think. See,
do we not know anything?
Well, but see, I don't. But I don't know if I believe that. I believe that we're acting kind of like, not stupid. Or ignorant,
naive.
or naive. I can't believe that all the time. I can't. Not that I shouldn't say I can't. I don't want to be like, are we not prepared? Are we not prepared?
I wouldn't say we don't have plans.
I understand. What about, do you think we're prepared? Like, do you think that we have enough so I believe, I really do. I just think that we have enough in play, in play, or a plan that I just can't see that there's so many smarter people.
You have faith,
well,
that our leadership knows what they're doing.
Well,
The problem with our plans are they change every 4 years.
Oh.
When we have an
Touche.
administration,
Good point.
We have an administration that comes in and they have a plan, and this is where we're going. And then the next administration comes in and says, "Oh, that plan? Yeah, we're not doing that.
well, do you
we're
think
gonna go
there's
this
something
way."
bigger than that?
Huh?
Do you think there's something bigger than that?
Well, they're both playing on the same side. So I mean, it's a lot about money. So if we're spending money on Ukraine, or we're spending money on Israel, and we're giving them the munitions and we're giving them what we need, we have to backfill all that stuff. So that means more contracts to Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, anybody who makes anything that goes boom or goes bang or goes bloom.
so do you think
So
there's
they can backfill it and spend more money on that, and they get more contracts, and so it fuels our economy. It fuels lots of different things. So,
do you think that that the two sides are that far apart when it comes to something like going to war? I mean, do you think that we have too many, whatever, just in general?
Well, what do you
think that
it
we're-
flip flops?
Do you think we're too far apart?
I think it gets. I think the source of it comes down to strength or lack thereof in multiple areas. So if you ever heard of the instruments of national power, you ever heard of DIME, the acronym DIME?
I really haven't.
So diplomatic, information, military, and economic are your four kind of pillars of national power, right? And if you think about it, all of them are sort of, I would say, weakened. It may be not just because of the politics or political parties. It's just the nature of the world we're in now. You think of information. We can't control the information like we used to. Diplomatically, yeah, that might be more political for sure. Militarily, it's just, we talked about that earlier. Technology is just, we just can't control the technology like we had in the past. And so we don't have that advantage as much anymore, I think.
and if we did, we got it stolen.
That too. And then you think economically, and Todd mentioned this earlier. It's all about money, right? And we could pay our way into powerful situations, and that was our strength. I'd argue not so much anymore, right? Especially when you have like China. I know their economy's kind of slowing now, but for the past 20 years, they were a power, and they're throwing their money around and buying influence. So when you think of that from those kind of pillars, I think they're all weakened for different reasons. So you're starting to see cracks here and there.
Well, isn't war kind of it's pay me now or pay me later? So if you go to war, it's so expensive. It's going to cost you. So is it better to spend that money or spend money up front and build the military?
I think I'm all about,
And avoid the war.
building that deterrence, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really wants to go to war. If you know anything about war, I don't think you really want to go to war.
No.
Everyone wants to avoid war. And I think, in the years past, we were strong. We had strong military, and that whole element of DIME was strong, and that was our deterrence. That kept us out of probably a lot of wars.
Yeah.
It's just that seems to be weakening. Those four pillars seem to be weakened. And now we have all these hotspots around the world, and we're, if things don't go right, we're on the precipice of perhaps multiple wars. If things don't go well
At the same time.
At the same
And
time,
that's
that's
what I'm
what
thinking.
scares the Jeezies out of me.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if we could do it.
And anyway, so it just goes back to power, and I think if we as a country could come together without a major terrorist attack again, but if we could come together and support the military, come up with a program where we can have more folks in the military and meet those recruiting goals and that sort of thing, that educates people. That does a lot of things.
Does that require a bold, does the leadership just have to get bold and say, this is what we're doing? And, you mentioned this DIME acronym. We talked a lot just recently now about the military, but what's the economic side of this? What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of it when you consider, supporting different countries around the world, giving them loans, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Allies, yeah.
Yeah, all our allies, or even trying to buy allies ultimately.
Midnight cash to
You know,
Iran.
you talk about all the different little, countries in Africa and places you wouldn't even think about. But it's good to have those folks on your side when it comes down to it. When you have then a China perhaps knocking on their door for access, and they're like, well, wait a minute, the U.S. has already given us money. We don't need your Chinese money. We're good. That's a good thing for us.
Give them money
Are
just
we
so they
being
don't
denied
have the Chinese come in.
involvement in foreign markets now that we were in before? I mean, are they shutting us out? Because I could see us losing influence if that's what they're doing.
It's just become a global economy, and so the U.S. isn't the driving factor anymore. Right?
So we need to kind of incentivize countries kind of to reestablish or depend more on us economically.
I
so
think
that they
it's-
feel
I think
less
it's all. I think it's
inclined?
all elements. It's more than just economically.
Well, no, I was just focusing on the E.
On the
dime,
E of
but-
dime, right?
Well, we're lucky that the dollar is still the world's, currency.
happens if it's not?
Because when that's no longer the case, then we've lost that E completely because they can just go in yen or whatever.
Can I switch topics for a second?
Yeah.
I mean, on the same lines. And you guys can make fun of me or whatever you guys want to do.
Is it about spin class?
No. I was going to.
I didn't say it.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard so let's say about the tanks. I'm just saying, we say, okay, well, we're not going to have a tank war anymore. So I was told to ask this question from Adrian.
Giddy up.
So, because she has, she's got a young son who's 16 years old. So I guess my question to you is, from a draft standpoint, I guess we still need a ton of people on the ground. I mean, educate me is what I'm asking. So if we went to war, obviously, no, I shouldn't say obviously. Do we need as many men on feet on the whatever that
Boots on the ground.
Right.
Thank you. Boots on the ground in something maybe.
Eventually, it wouldn't start off that way. But
Okay.
eventually, it would if we were going to occupy, or
Even as okay.
we would still need boots on the ground. But it wouldn't start that way. It would start with an air campaign of some sort where we would take
or
out
cyber attack.
Cyber
or,
attack.
You got
Yeah.
a bunch
So
of
we're-
kids behind a keyboard.
keyboard,
that
Okay.
kind of-
drones,
Cool.
a dominance of the air,
Not
and
cool, but-
taking out their air defenses. And then once we controlled the air and the comms, then the next phase could come in however they wanted to put it in.
And do you think that's where we lost that we've lost maybe some of our power now because everybody's just so smart when it comes to that technical stuff? Do you think that we're still superior in technical?
I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts, but here's one of the things I've thought about is that you were talking about the new tech. You have long range missiles that are pinpoint accurate now. You have drones,
Which you think
micro satellites, all the stuff that.
Yeah, non-kinetics.
Yeah,
You have
thank you,
things that can,
Elon Musk.
you don't have to
But-
blow things up anymore to take them out. Exactly.
So new tech obviously is very important because it does give you an advantage.
and I think it
But
saves lives
does it
too,
really
right?
win wars? And that goes back to what Scott's saying.
But do you
do you
believe it's-
eventually need the?
Well, do you believe it saves lives?
I think initially,
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean and again that's what I'm just trying to.
but if that war continues, don't
it-
you eventually have to have the manpower?
Right. As soon as if you can, the
Depends what
sooner
your
you can
goals
end
are.
it, the more lives you'll save.
Depends what your
Okay,
goals
okay,
are.
that's
If you're
longer it goes
occupying,
on.
If it's
if you're occupying, you need
geographical,
boots on the
yeah.
ground.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way to do it. Once just like what Israel's doing right now in
There you go.
in Gaza. I mean, after their first couple of strikes, they have to have boots on the ground because it's urban warfare. It's the worst kind of war you can think of. I mean, that they're going through house to house, clearing room to room, going into caves and tunnels and flooding, and it's bad. I mean, there's no way to get around a body count. It's going to be a body count. It's urban warfare sucks. It's bad. So if you can do everything you can first to soften everything up from the air, from wherever, you got to do that first. And then once it becomes that type of war, then you need boots on the ground. And it's
I might
not
be wrong
good.
on this,
Not good.
but I saw an interview with Netanyahu. I think it was yesterday, and he was kind of asked by the reporter, I think it was Maria Bartoloma. I don't know if I said her name right. But,
Yes, you did.
and she was asking him, well, don't you think maybe by pulling back that it would encourage Hamas to stand down more? And he said, I thought his answer was actually perfect. He said, they're not standing down now, and we're crushing them. So what makes you think they're going to stand down when we pull back? And that pretty much answered the question. That's why they're not going to.
Yeah, I'm surprised that she even asked that question.
I was kind of surprised too.
because
but I
she's
think
pretty. She's real squared away.
Yeah, I think it was kind of just playing devil's advocate, with him. But I don't know.
So, what do you guys think of a mandatory service requirement, like
gets back to
Israel?
what you were saying.
2 years.
Yeah, in the U.S.
I'm all
if
for
we
it.
could if we could afford it.
Do you think it would work now, though? I mean, given the
Can you touch on that for me? What? So
you're talking draft, right?
right.
Essentially, draft. Like in
Okay.
Israel, they have to serve.
Yeah.
Everybody, male and female, has to serve for 2 years.
2 years.
What's the age group on that?
As soon as they graduate from high school, I think they have to be 18.
18, I think. Something
Yeah,
like that.
but when they have to graduate, they have to be past high school years, and they have to be 18, and they serve for 2 years, and then they get out. So they also get out with a skill set.
And that's men and women.
It's men and women
Yeah.
because they're only a population of, was it 7 million? I think I just pulled that right out of my ass. I can't remember, but I think it's 7 million.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. But they're small, right? So they don't have a whole lot of people. So everybody has to be ready to fight at any moment. So, if something goes down, you did your 2 years and you're 25 now, and we can pull you from your engineering job, and you're going to come fight because we're fighting for our lives. We're enemies on all 360 degrees, around us, and everybody's coming after us. So everybody has to be already trained, ready to go, can pick up a rifle, knows how to use it, and whatever they did, their MOS is, I don't know if they even have that, but whatever they did in the military, they can go right back, fill the logistics, and do whatever they need to do, and they can fight.
I think the benefit is not so much on the war fighting. Obviously, they need everyone. They need every man and woman.
Yeah.
Because of the situation they're in.
Yeah. Numbers.
We probably don't. We certainly don't. But I think you brought up the point about skill sets, right?
Yeah.
You come out of that 2 years with a skill set, a trade,
point.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Or maybe just a simple appreciation for your country.
even better, even
Ouch.
Could you imagine?
better,
Ouch.
yeah, even better, right? Discipline, all those kind of things, right?
Wow, esprit de corps. No kneeling for the national anthem.
Okay, go back to where we are right now, though, with the attitude, I should say, of those who have been raised in the last 30 years. What would it take to enforce that?
Oh, that would be painful.
Can you imagine?
Yeah,
I can't
no.
even imagine. The number of people would say no.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a lot of kicking and screaming
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a while. But
So
I'm just saying in
so
the
you have
long,
to enforce it.
I'm just saying in the long run, though. I mean, I see a lot of benefits in that, right?
Absolutely. There'll be a lot of deferments at first. I mean, there'll be a lot
Sure.
of people being kicked out for XYZ or for whatever reason. But you don't, like you say, you don't need everybody. But if you got 10%, just say 10% of the people that are of age and are available, if you got 10%, that's all you would need. And then when people saw that, hey, these guys went in there, came out with a skill, and came out and they don't need that. They don't have that liberal arts degree that they can't get a job with now. They got something they
Yeah,
can
and we're not
get a
talking
job
about
with.
kicking indoors skills necessarily.
Everybody can't be a door kicker.
No, everybody can be, but you might get that skill.
You could.
but you might also get a cyber, an IT degree, those
Exactly
kind
right.
of skill sets that are high tech.
And the ones that want that skill are going to go get that. They're going to go get that. If they want to be a door kicker, they're going to go, and because I want to be a door kicker, this is what I want to do.
And
So
you
they're
might
gonna
not
go
have
that.
a $150,000 student loan.
Correct. For your liberal arts degree that you can't get a job with.
Right.
So Scott, that kind of brings you back to your question. What do we do? We're not that age anymore, obviously, so we're not going to be going in. But it does it come down to just finding political leaders that we can elect that support that idea? Maybe that's what it comes down
Well,
to.
the 30 and under crowd, they're not going to be voting for that person that has that idea, and hopefully they don't run on that platform because they'll never get elected.
I don't. Do they vote? I don't know. Are they voting?
Apparently, they do.
I don't know. Well, if they're
Somebody's getting their ballot and stuffing it in a box.
dead people,
Dead people.
Todd brought up a good point. How would you implement like teaching our young kids like pride in where we live? I mean, I don't. That would probably be harder than anything.
You'd have to start at the Board of Education.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you think that would be?
Now, have you guys heard that there's a trend that way?
What do you think?
Not
Like
the board.
shaming our country?
No, about the trend in the younger generation now becoming more, and when I say younger,
Conservative.
I mean,
Well, that's-
early 20s now,
But that's
20 years.
that's just males, though.
You mean maturing? Like
Yeah.
No, being more conservative when they grow up and they're out of high school. They're
It's just the pendulum swinging again.
It is.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
and that's just males, though. It's not the females. The females are still
Just males.
liberal. It's just the males for the most part that are trending conservative.
Well, we would be drafting females.
Well, not yeah, no.
it would be easier. We should just go and transition or transgender as many Taiwan people in Taiwan and make China not want them. It would be way easier.
So if you wanted to start some type of draft, I think if everybody's equal and men can swim against women and all that kind of crap, then you kind of have to say, hey, you guys have to serve 2 years too. We need people to, I got to be careful here. We have jobs for you as well.
Right.
Because, everybody's not a door kicker.
Hey, kitchen doors need to be kicked in too.
Hey, exactly right. Thank you. I knew there was a segue. I just couldn't open the door.
Well, going back to what we're learning from Ukraine, this whole idea of, again, we already know, well, hopefully we know, a lot of us know that we don't want to be in a war. But if we are, they're very expensive. They're always more expensive than you think they're going to be. They're hard to get out of. So, and we're seeing it. We're watching it.
Apparently not. You just pull out in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, but it's
true.
In order to do the things we're talking about as a nation, it's going to be incredibly expensive. And that's my point, is that it's going to be expensive one way or the other.
We can just print more money, can't we?
The
You're
craziest
changing
part,
the whole topic again.
the craziest part about it is something that Scott mentioned, is that are both sides like involved? Think about this. It's really gone from one ideology to the other. Who's supporting Ukraine? It's not the 10 years ago. It would have been reversed. It's just
Right.
It's an
That's
ideological
what makes me feel like I'm being
switch.
played.
Yeah, it's the money. It has to be. There's no other possible.
I'm not kidding.
Explanation.
If Putin was telling the truth on some of this, and I don't mean all of it even, but let's say 25%.
Well, it's
And
his
we
truth.
have no business.
It's still his truth.
being over
It's
there.
what he believes. It's still his truth.
But I'm just saying, if it is the truth,
Yeah.
I mean, it made me really think when he opened the door with his history lesson as to what's been going on over there that we don't even know about.
Here's the bottom line. I support Ukraine. I can't stand Russia, and for many reasons. Because I'm Estonian, and my family is I still have family over there in the Baltics. I'm not.
So
I'm not team Putin. I'm not team Putin. I'm not team Russia. But if you put yourself in his shoes and you see, he's got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're all in NATO. And now you got Finland joining. Well, they did that because he invaded. And then you have all these other countries, and NATO is creeping and creeping and creeping on since the Soviet Union collapsed, right? And then he's like, okay, Ukraine. They're talking about Ukraine joining NATO. He's like, oh no, you can't. That can't happen. I mean, that's a bridge too far. I can't do it. Oh no, we're not gonna allow that. Oh,
Well, you mentioned all these agreements too that he
exactly. And the next thing you
weren't
know,
honored.
He said, "Hey, we start putting our troops up on the border." It's like, unless I get an agreement that they're never coming in NATO, this is going down, and it didn't work. So who shot that? Who was it that shot down that? That was the British Prime Minister that threw that in the garbage.
what was his name? Boris.
Boris Yeltsin. Not
No,
Yeltsin. That's
no.
not Boris Yeltsin. It was Boris Johnson.
Johnson.
Yep. The old, yeah. So
Again,
correct.
according to him.
According to him, that's
But
how
it
that
sounds
happened.
legit. You know what I mean?
It does
It's
sound
just-
legit.
It's logical from his perspective. It's
And,
very
and
logical.
I guarantee
Exactly.
I guarantee you won't hear anybody refute what he said from the United States.
Have you heard anything yet?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Other than
because they would have been coming out.
Tucker's.
Exactly. Oh, he's a Putin
He's a
puppet.
traitor.
But they're not coming out and refuting what he said. Oh
No.
yeah, that wasn't Boris. That's not how it happened. It wasn't the British Prime Minister that did that. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying any of that.
No.
Because if
You're
it was
right. That's a good
wrong,
point.
they'd be screaming it from the rooftops, right? So I if you put yourself in his shoes and you got NATO right on your doorstep again after you've got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all NATO countries, he's not invading any of them because then obviously we would have a legitimate gripe that we've got to defend them because of NATO, but they're not in NATO, and now they're going to become NATO. So now he's going to have NATO completely surrounding him on that western border. How does he? If that happened to us, if they parked their nukes and we had Russia down on Mexican border,
Yeah.
you think we wouldn't be invading them right now? I mean, and have that place would be a wasteland. It wouldn't happen. We wouldn't let that happen. So you kind of got to you got to look at it from both ways. And I'm not a
Right.
I'm
You
not
don't
pro
wanna-
Russia.
yeah.
Trust me.
You don't
I'm
wanna
not pro
support it.
Russia. Yeah, I'm not pro Russia. But hey, we should have let that go.
Well, we're getting close to wrapping up. I know, but again, let's go back to the 30 years. We've had 30 years. Not that it was total peace. Obviously, we were in Afghanistan. We were way over there. Okay. Over here, we were enjoying all this peace, basically. Those who signed up, yeah, they're over there serving, but we're enjoying the peace. And over that period, and I started to say this earlier, but I think we just, as a nation, not all of us, as a nation, we start getting complacent. And when you're complacent, I think that's what leads to being naive, because you've gone from being complacent because nothing's happening here, so I'm not really worried about it, to the next generation comes along, they're not thinking like that. They're thinking, I don't have to worry about it. There's nothing wrong with those other countries, They're not messing with us. We can support them. We can support the Palestinians. We can support Hamas, So now we're naive. Now we're at that naive stage. And I guess there's another way of saying it. What's the big quote? Soft times, hard times.
Hard times makes
You say it.
Yeah.
You know what it is. It's
I'll
been beat to
I'll
death.
let the captain say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard times. I
don't know.
Hard times.
Hard times
not coming to
create.
me. I know what you're trying to get to, but I can't think of it.
Yeah. It's a circle. It's a circle.
Yeah, it's a circle, bottom line. But bottom line is that this is just another way of looking at it. And that
Hard times create strong men.
strong men create.
Strong men
get it right.
create soft times, and it keeps it's three of them.
Something like that.
Can't remember. I can look it up.
So now, as a result of that, now here's what we got. We got the population who doesn't really want to serve, a large portion of it. They're like, no way. We don't even agree with the problem. We don't even agree with the military.
Here it is, right here. It's tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, and weak men create tough times.
Yeah. And it's been proven over and over again, and we're looking at it again right now. Who'd have thought, again, we're all roughly the same age, who'd have thought 30, 40 years ago that we'd even have these conversations? Not just about wars, but about what's going on in our administration. I can remember when these policies would come up and we'd be like, oh, that leads to a slippery slope. And you were mocked if you said that, because they're like, no way, you're exaggerating, you're gaslighting. And it's not only happened, but it's gone beyond that.
So what can we do as individuals? Vote.
That's what I was thinking.
But
You
that's-
got to find the
And-
leadership
and-
that's going to.
And Scott brought this up too. What can we do, right? And Scott, you said something about bringing up our kids with a healthy respect for country and military and all that kind of good stuff.
You could run for office.
You could run for office,
Local office.
You could make sure that
Yeah.
your kids or your grandkids, understand, and respect, the nation, that we were and we should be again, and all that kind of good stuff. I think that's hugely important.
Do you have programs for that? I mean, I know Todd said something about the schools. I think that's too big of a piece.
It's almost like-
what about like I'm just saying, we have our recs. We have Parks and Rec, and people play lacrosse and soccer and football and everything. I don't know.
I just think you're not going to get it through the local school boards. You're right. I think you're going to get it independently, kind of like media now is becoming more independent.
School choice. I mean, you got.
But the only problem
you'd
with
have to
that is
send
then
your
who
kid
Who do you go to?
Well, who's thought?
I can tell you right now,
process do you-
I've come across this. He's a historian. His name's Larry Schweikert. You can find him online. I see him on X all the time, but he's written some excellent.
What was his
new
name? I'm sorry.
Larry Schweikert. And
He's a historian.
Yeah, and I
think
can pull it up, but he's a political pundit too, a little bit online. But what he's done is him and a couple of people I think have worked together to create. They've not revised. I shouldn't say it that way. They have written history books that go back mainly to what we're talking about, where they encourage the patriotism, where they talk about the benefits of being an American and in this country, and they're excellent. They're excellent, well-written books, and
Well,
they're
how do
finding
you-
their way out there
Okay.
into the schools, and they're actually making. I think right now they're trying to work on creating a movie based on some of this as well. So they're trying to get independent funding for stuff like that and these books. But so my point is that they're out there.
So they're only
It's
going to be
just
sold.
finding them.
They're only going to be sold and used in Florida.
Yeah,
Do we still have history class in schools? Do we have our history? Do we?
I don't know what they're going anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
sure
just
they
I'm
do.
just saying.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm
But
not
what,
being.
but what history are they teaching?
Yeah.
well, I
That's the problem. The problem is what is being taught.
Yeah, I don't think the school system at this stage of the game would probably be the right.
Not at the
avenue.
not at public school system. It's going to have to be school choice. Has got to be. The kids are being so crushed with a lack of quality education. There needs to be school choice. The money has to follow the kids, and they have to be able to go where they want to go to get the proper education. There's kids in Baltimore. There's a 13% reading proficiency and a 9% math proficiency, and not one person passed any of the tests. Not one person in like any of the public schools.
Right.
Not one.
Right.
How is that even possible? It's not because they don't have the aptitude. What's the reason? And there's 20, I think is it 16,000 or 26,000? If they have the highest amount of money that per child, per student,
yeah.
per student, is going into Baltimore City Public Schools. So it's not a money problem. You could double the amount of money. It's not going to make them read. It's not going to make them, do math.
But in all fairness, they know pronouns we don't.
Okay.
Both of them.
Good point.
So
And with that, that's a good closing point.
yeah,
I mean, we got to hit it at the education level.
yeah,
And,
and
so you got to find leadership that is willing to do that.
and they're throwing money at the public school system doesn't get it done. So the kids have to be able to have school choice, and if they're spending $16,000 per student in that school system, that student needs to say, you know what, I want to go to Poly, or I want to go to Calvert Hall, or I want to go to Loyola, and that $16,000 has to follow that student. If they want to go there, if they apply and they get in, then they should go there, and that money should go with that student. If it costs $24,000, then they got to come up with the extra. If it costs less, then that's all they need. But
You're eliminating the Board of Education by doing that, which
and the
I'm
unions
in full agreement
I'm all
on.
for it.
exactly, but the unions,
that's what has
that's
to
what it
happen,
is.
yeah.
The unions have to they need to get spanked down, and they need to do that, because if it doesn't happen, these kids they're doomed. They're doomed for their future.
Any closing thoughts, Captain?
No, good discussion. I just interested in all these
Yeah,
kind of
thanks for
things, and
bringing that up.
I know it's not the funniest topic and that sort of thing.
No,
so-
it's a little deep, but I
little
think
deep.
that it needs to happen. I'm not saying we threw out any really good solutions, but I feel like it's got to be, I feel like it's got to be, it's got to come from leadership, and our role is either A, step up and be one, or find somebody who does feel that way and then do what we can to get them elected. Anyway, on that note, we'll kind of wrap it up. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks, Captain, for the idea, because again, something important, something we got to address, and hopefully we encourage other people to talk about it as well. Just some closing thoughts for anybody listening. We're going to have, hopefully within a week or so, we're going to have a new website up for this podcast, which will have, of course, all the episodes on it, and also allow a comment board. People can reach out and make suggestions and comments. So we're going to be working on that. Hopefully expanding onto YouTube, not necessarily video, but audio, but still have a YouTube channel. So that's also an option for people. And we'll keep working on it. We just kind of threw this together pretty quickly, tech-wise, and we're going to be hopefully adding to this, each week, doing something that'll help. So we appreciate it. If you're listening and you enjoy some of the conversations, definitely follow us. Click the follow button or the subscribe button, and then that way you'll be notified every time an episode is uploaded. Right now, the plan is every Monday should be a new one uploaded. And since we're still kind of ahead of the game recordings-wise, we should be able to keep up with that schedule for the next couple of months. So anyway, thank you guys for coming. We'll do this again next week. And I don't know. Maybe it'll be deep. Maybe it won't be. But
Well, it depends if Jim dials in from Nashville.
And that's right. We got to get Jim dialed in.
Oh boy.
And I think Kevin's coming back next week, so that'll be cool. So anyway, be a good time. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next week. Happy birthday, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Evan, thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Hey, you've been listening to the All Red, White, and Blue podcast. It's engineered and recorded by Josh Miller. Please subscribe and comment so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back with you again next week.